Hey, everybody, and welcome to our newest project for First Responder Wellness, No One Fights Alone, an in-depth conversation about mental health and addiction in the first responder space. We're joined by your hosts, Austin Pedersen and Josh Adams.
All right, well, we're back for another episode. We're going to grace the listeners with the presence of Mr. John Corcoran again today. I had the pleasure of getting to spend at least the last couple of days with John. John and I both work together and kind of have some of the same mission as some of you know, and it's a different vibe to see you in your hometown and in your comfortable area. And we got to speak with a few different departments, including your own, on wellness the last couple of days. And, John grabbed me, and I think there was a huge portion of your story and, what you've gone through that we really didn't go over the last time that, you were on the podcast. I think we kind of, went through the before and then your experience in treatment as an active duty police officer, but we really didn't go over anything after. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that's kind of where we left off.
Yeah, and what I really want to do is I think a lot of the times when we go over people's experiences, we get to the treatment portion and we kind of get stuck there, and then we don't talk about what life is like after you go. So, realistically, during this episode, I want to talk what it looks like for you back in real life. So, what I want to do right now is talk about what it was like, reintegrating back into work. Uh, what it was like the day you left treatment and kind of the struggles that you faced. So, kind of give us an idea of, the first little bit you came back home.
Sure. So I think the day I left treatment, I drove home. I left treatment at, say, roughly 16, 18-hour drive from Salt Lake back to the Twin Cities here in St. Paul, Minneapolis. Um, it was a lot of time to kind of sit by myself and process the last 60 days. I did a 60-day stint at Chateau, and it was a lot of, I don't want to say unanswered questions, but there was a lot of, okay, what does life look like moving forward?
To be determined, right?
Yes, to be determined. It was, a lot of where my energy was going to be focused as far as what I had learned at Chateau and what I had experienced there. And I had to integrate back to work. I had to integrate back to real life. I mean, you're in a sterile environment for 30 to 60 days, and you really don't have to worry about the outside world. You've got that time to concentrate on yourself, and now, boom, there's life right back in your face again. So I'm glad I took that time to drive home, as opposed to flying home.
Well, you hate flying anyways, right?
Not necessarily. I like that driving and having that time to yourself, and but I think it was good for me. It was good to, kind of get my ducks in a row for when I got home and I was going to hit the ground running, and let's see what was a priority to handle first and see where I was going to go with everything.
So, what were some of your biggest concerns coming back? Because you're different, like we talked in the last episode. For those that have listened, I highly do recommend going and listening to part one of this. But you're a little bit different, where you weren't necessarily nervous about other people's reactions as much, right? Like, I mean, you weren't afraid of hiding the fact that you went and sought help. because that's what a lot of people feel, right? They don't want people to know. So what were some of your biggest concerns coming back to the Twin Cities?
Some of my biggest concerns were time management was a big one because I had in my SLP, which is my self leadership plan, which you develop while you're at Chateau, and it kind of gives you a guideline of how you're going to live your life, how you're going to integrate the things that you were taught while in treatment, and how you are going to keep integrating those into your life. When I shared it at Chateau, a lot of the concern was how are you going to fit all this stuff into your day, your week,
So
and
give us an idea of what that looked like because I know you well
so my
enough.
SLP looked like, I mean, I really got into the meditation. I really got into the yoga. I probably, when I left Chateau, I was in some of the best shape of my life. I mean, I had walked a ton. I had done a ton of hiking. I had worked out a lot. And just fitting all that stuff into my day. And like I said before, you know, that I was in a sterile environment when I was able to do that. And now life is there again. I've got to get up and go to work. I've got to get up and take care of getting the dog out, getting him settled for when I go to work. I got to find time to work out. I got to find time to go see my daughters. I've got to find time to maybe make a meeting, make a Zoom meeting, and get to bed at a decent hour to keep that healthy sleep pattern that I had developed at Chateau, and finding time for all that. And there were other things I wanted to take on too, like, you know, getting more involved in some of the workout plans that I had done at Chateau, or, you know, even diving more into um, this whole new realm of recovery that I had found while I was out there, and exploring what that would look like for a future with me, and trying to maybe set myself up for doing something in that line of work.
Yeah, and like I know you well enough to know you're a big hobby guy too, right?
Yep. Yep.
Like you like to have fun and do the
Yes.
things that you like to do, hunting, fishing, you know, whatever it is,
Yep.
and that's a huge part of your life, right?
It Yes and no, because prior to going out to treatment, it wasn't as big of a part of my life as it had been in the past. When I grew up and through my teenage years, I was very, very involved in hunting, fishing, camping, all that kind of stuff. And then as I became an adult, I got into my career, and other things in life started happening, kids, bills, stuff like that. That really fell to the wayside. And one of the things that I discovered about myself while I was in treatment is every peaceful time in my life that I remember was associated with something like hunting, fishing, camping, being outside, something constructive. And I was determined to get that back in my life.
Yeah, and that's I mean that's why I wanted to make sure we hit on that point because I think that I mean this is just mental health in general is I think as we become adults and we work those 12-hour days or 16-hour day whatever it may be, all of those hobbies and those things that we love to do really fall to the wayside.
Yeah, they take a back seat.
Yeah, and I think that contributes to issues.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that contributes to exhaustion, to, you know, anger, to depression and all of that stuff because if I'm looking at you from an outsider's perspective, right? Like what I see you do now is you do things you enjoy. And
Yes,
like that's a
very
key
much so.
I think that's a key to anyone's happiness.
Yes.
And I think that not very many people go back to that. And that's why I wanted to hit on it. I don't
Yeah.
think people start
And
doing those hobbies
and
again.
for me, it, you know, like I said, coming home, I wanted to get into my meditation. I wanted to get into yoga and other things like that. Some of the things that they teach you while you're in treatment to recenter yourself, to decompress, to and everything like that. And for me personally, that got yoga meditation got replaced with getting up at 5 a.m. and sitting on a glass calm lake in my boat and watching the sun come up
But that's
while
the
I'm
same.
fishing.
But that's the same thing. Like
It
that's
is, but
your.
it is and it isn't. It's kind of a way to integrate what you love with. And I'll be honest with you, yoga. I'm not the most flexible guy in the world. I'm not built like a flexible guy. Um, it was a lot more enjoyable for me to go hook up my boat and drive to a lake or sit in a deer stand or, be out on a pond before sun comes up and throwing out duck decoys to that became my therapy. That became how I decompressed, how I um, recentered myself when things got out of whack.
Yeah. But that's. I mean, that's. You don't always need a therapist to do those type of things, right?
No,
Like that's
no,
that's what I'm getting into with you on this particular point is that like you found something to calm your mind
yes,
when the rest of the world is still going insane because tell me if I'm wrong though. You came right back in the thick of COVID, right? Like
yes, yep.
and so things were shut down. There's not like a ton of room for connection with, other people. People are, isolated or whatever it may be. So, at least working in treatment, I noticed very, very quickly during COVID that all of the recipes for things that we had told people to do for years and years as part of a successful plan were no longer possible.
Oh, I can give you a perfect example of that. I mean, prior to me going out to Chateau, I was the first person, well, the second, um, in a department of almost 700, 800 people to get COVID. And it was in the very beginning of COVID. Nobody knew how to deal with it, nobody knew what to do. I was isolated for a good 3 weeks in my one bedroom apartment. And what else do you do but sit around, eat? And for me, it was sit around, eat, and drink. I mean, those are two of the three main, you know, negative ingredients in mental health: isolation and substance abuse. And I really didn't have anything else to do, And so when you said, yeah, COVID kind of changed everything and kind of set mental health as far as people being able to not isolate, not, connect with people. And, even, I mean, I think the mental health industry, the telehealth industry kind of went bonkers with COVID because everybody was experiencing some form of depression during it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's, I mean, we're going to be seeing the impacts of, the mental health crisis for the next 20 years in youth and I mean in everyone, but yeah, I mean, telehealth is one of those that kind of expanded and, it has its negatives and its positives. In my opinion, it's great that you can access resources. However, I don't think there's anything stronger than me and you sitting down and having a conversation face to face still.
There's nothing even to take that a step further of standing in line at the grocery store and striking up a conversation with a complete stranger. And especially like in a town like St. Paul, you can sit at a restaurant, run into a stranger, and within 5 minutes you have half a dozen people that you know in common.
Yeah. And
And
but that's not normal, right? Like, I don't think that's,
no,
you
but
know,
it's part of
it's part of why
that
you live
human
here.
connection.
Yeah.
It's part of that. Hey, I ran into so and so. They knew you. It
Yeah.
makes you reach out to another person saying, "Hey, I ran into your cousin the other night and didn't know it was your cousin." But
Yeah.
with COVID, all that kind of got just snuffed out.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree there. Okay, so we've painted the picture a little bit. You've left treatment. You've taken care of yourself in different ways, right? Like
Yes.
reintegrated yourself back into some of the hobbies that you like doing.
Yes.
It's still the depths of COVID, so you're missing that connection piece.
Yes.
How's work? Did you come back immediately? Did you have to do a fit for
I
duty? What was your
Yep. So
process?
what I did is I took a week off between coming home and going back to work, and I did that for one main reason, and that was to spend time with my girls. Spent a lot of time with them. They had a lot of questions. They're, teenage girls, and my two older ones were young adults at the time. They had a lot of questions. They had a lot of questions of what did you experience, and the bigger question for them was, what does life look like for you now? And I think that was probably one of the smarter moves I made, taking that time to spend with them, because I could have jumped right back into shift work and gone back to work and everything, but I think I needed that time to make some connections that maybe I had damaged prior to treatment with my behavior and with my, what I was going through mentally. Um, and it was the response was unbelievable. I mean, my kids were very supportive, and to even take it a step further, when I reintegrated back into work, the response I got from the guys and the gals that I work with, the administration, was nothing but positive. It was, hey, we're proud of you. We're glad to have you back, and we're glad you took care of yourself.
Which isn't always the case, as you found out, working in this field. That's not going to be
No, it's
the
not always
result.
the case,
Yeah.
and it's we're getting better at it as an industry. We're getting better at seeing that it's okay to not be okay. We're all human. We all have that point in life where life gets to be too much, and maybe we don't respond to life getting to be too much in the most healthy ways.
Yeah. Yeah, and absolutely. And so, okay, so administration is supportive, good people in the department. Let's talk about going on calls and everything. Were you triggered at all? Were you?
Not so much, and like we kind of touched in the final moments of the first episode of this, I'm blessed. I'm very blessed. I get to ride around with a very good friend of mine that I've known since we were both 5 years old. And it's almost like when I jumped back in that car, I hadn't even left. It was, we still read each other. We read each other's, thoughts as far as what we need to do on certain calls and everything like that. And it was like I hadn't even missed a beat.
That's amazing, right? Like that's not normal too. So
No,
so
no, it's not.
yeah. So I think this is a key part of like why you've been successful, right? Like all the support around you, family, friends, department. You're I mean, it's cold as shit here right now.
Yeah.
Right, we know this. I've bitched about it for 3 days. We are in St. Paul right now. That's why we are sitting down with
Yeah,
John.
and just so the listeners know, the air temp outside is -6 with the windshield. It feels like -26.
Yeah, it's rough, especially for me. I forget that I'm bald until I go outside without like a beanie or something on, and I'm like,
Or when we were walking around Cabela's last night, and you're like, my feet are cold.
oh yeah, yeah, it's not normal. But once again, you're in a place that you love.
Yep.
No matter how fucking cold it is, you do love it here. I can
It
tell.
is fucking cold here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But so I mean, it's all of these things are producing positivity for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, And I don't know how much you want to get into this particular portion, but I want to leave it up to you. Let's talk about like relationships, significant others.
I just want to rewind a little bit. You touched a little bit on calls, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just want to share one that I went to when I got home. It was probably 3 4 months after I got home. We had a call of a check the welfare of a female that her family had called and said she was in an abusive relationship. And one of my partners went out, made contact with the female. She said, "No, I'm okay." And he said, "Hey, your family's trying to get a hold of you." And she didn't have a phone to use. He offered her to use his department issued cell phone, and she was like, "Nope, I'm okay. I'm fine." And within 2 hours, we were called back to that address by the family who had gone to check the welfare of her and found her and her 2 children dead. She had been killed by her boyfriend. And I remember getting there, and I remember driving there. I was partnered with one of our female officers that day, and I remember driving there going, "Okay, this is the test. This is the first big call that you've had since you gotten back." And I was worried. I was worried about how I'd react, and it was weird. My training and experience took over. It was a very dynamic scene, and a lot of things that would have used to have triggered me happened on that call. And I remember getting done with that call and talking about it with a couple people. And I remember going home and also calling my good friend Roy that I was at Chateau with, and kind of stepping through the call with him. He's a former police officer. And those are things I wouldn't have done before. Those are things that I would have jumped right into a bottle after that call. I would have gone and gotten a 12 pack and drank until I wouldn't think about that call anymore and just suppressed all those feelings. But the things that I learned out at Chateau with being in the moment and letting those feelings come and feeling them and then moving on, I tried to really put that in practice, and it helped. It was unbelievable. It's not a call that I think about every day. It is a call that sometimes pops into my mind, but it doesn't send me down that rabbit hole like it would have before Chateau.
Yeah. And you're talking about when you reached out. I don't know if you remember, but I think I talked to you like 3 days after that call.
Yep, I think I do remember now.
Yeah. And I remember you kind of saying those exact things of like, it was not easy.
No, it was not an easy call at all.
Yeah, but my reaction to the critical incident was drastically different
Yes.
than it had been, previously during my career. And I mean that's growth, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, did you look at that as a victory?
I look at that as a huge victory.
Yeah.
I do, because something like that are calls like that are the reasons people leave this industry. People go, "Okay, I'm done. I can't see another call like that. I can't be involved in something like that." And for me, the love of this job was so deep that I had an opportunity to go, "I'm done." I had my calls that I could have checked that box and gone, "I'm done." But I mean, it's something very special here in St. Paul to be a son of St. Paul and be one of St. Paul's finest, and the love of that job and the love of serving the people that the city that I grew up in is more important.
Yeah, I mean that's beautiful right there, right? Like it's for that's for the younger generation that's thinking about
Yep.
doing this, right? And I don't think that's probably our listeners very much. But
Yeah.
if it is, that's why people do it. Right there, I mean, you're 18 years, right?
18. You said 18 last time, and I had to correct you. I'll be starting my 25th year in August.
Why do I keep thinking? Is it because you technically have 5 years till retirement? Is that seven? I thought you had 7 years.
I have 5 to 7,
Okay,
depending
so
on what it looks like.
see, I keep thinking you have 7 years in the 25-year
If
retirement
I
mark.
make it to 55, I'll end up with 32 years of
Yeah.
service as a police officer.
So that is why, by the
Yep.
way, because I keep thinking you have 7 years left, and usually most people are like, I can retire at 25 years
Yep.
or whatever.
Yep,
maybe.
we're a little different here.
Yeah.
We don't go by years of service here. We go by age.
Oh,
And the
okay.
minimum age here to retire and not be penalized by percentages of your retirement is 55.
Got it. That is 100% why. It's
Yep.
drastically different in Utah. They go
Yep.
straight off of years. It was 20, and
When
now
I
it's
started, it was a little different. I think the minimum retirement age was 50, and I would have ended up with right around 26, 27 years.
Yeah.
And I was going to be done at 50. But like 3 years into me being a police officer, they changed it to 55.
Yeah, I bet you that pissed some people off, didn't it?
It did, but it you saw a lot of guys scramble to get out of there at 50.
Yeah, yeah.
It did. And right now with the amount of overtime that's available and some of the other factors, you're seeing guys that are able to leave at 52, 53 and still walk away with a very nice pension.
Yeah. How's your guys' staffing right now? Are you still at about 200
We're
under?
still below where we should be, but we just graduated an academy of 28 a week ago, and we just started another academy Monday of, I believe, 12 to 15.
Okay. Still
And
pretty low, though.
they kind of gave us a roadmap of what it's going to look like in the next couple of years, and they're going to try to, if we can recruit well enough, they're going to try and run back-to-back academies for like 2 years straight.
Okay. And they weren't doing that before, one academy a year, basically?
Yeah, sometimes they're back when I was hired in 98. So I was the only class in 1998. And then 1999, they had the class of 1999-1, the class of 1999-2. And I think they kind of went at that pace for a couple of years.
Gotcha. And so it just kind of rotates. I mean, obviously,
It's due to, the retirements and the vacancies they have to fill. And
Yeah.
so.
so how many do you think you guys are operating at now, if you just had to guess?
Ooh, I think our authorized strength is somewhere around 750. I'd say we're probably around 650 right now.
That's pretty good. I mean, that's better than most.
It's way better than we were.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, because
know.
you guys were at 500 for a
At some
while,
point,
weren't you?
we
Yeah.
were low.
Yeah.
We were low.
I mean, it's just like the rest. It's
Yeah.
every
it's-
single
right now,
department.
Everybody's
Yeah.
kind of battling the same thing: retention, recruitment, and
Yeah. Do you think that's going to change, or do you think this is going to stay for
I
a while?
do. No, I do think it's going to change. I think I think a lot of departments like St. Paul have done a lot of good things to show the communities that we serve that that we're different, that we are we operate differently than some of the departments around the nation. And I think that it's going to change just because you kind of saw the chaos that came with when the public opinion on law enforcement and the police wasn't the greatest. And I think people started to realize it's a necessity to have the police, and it's, I think some communities really realized, hey, we're actually pretty blessed with the officers that we have serving our community, that they're not, drawing national attention, and they're not drawing some, how would I say, critical criticism
Yeah.
to our department.
No, I get what you're saying. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. Only time will tell, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the real. I think that a lot of departments like St. Paul have changed some, internal operations or whatever it is to make sure
Hey,
that
the
they.
job since I've been on has changed dramatically.
Well,
I
it's
mean,
technology has come into play.
technology
It was not
was a
there. Yeah.
huge driving force of it. We used to handwrite our reports. My first year on, we hand wrote our reports. We then got a report writing system for our laptops and squad computers. Then we went to in-car cameras, and a couple of years ago we went to body cameras. And I mean, you try and introduce change to a group of people, especially a group of people as strong-minded as police officers. It's not a good thing.
Yeah, it
I
takes
remember when
takes a
body
while.
cams came out, everybody was like, "Oh, these are the worst thing. We're going to be getting in trouble for everything." And to be honest with you, they've dispelled more things.
Cameras don't lie, I guess,
And
right?
they've
Yeah.
also shown the reality of our job. They've shown the human side of our job, to where, things that were hearsay almost prior to body cams, about cops going out there and going above and beyond the Call of Duty, or even showing their human side. And I mean, you could go Google anything about kindness police officers have shown, and some of it's been caught on body cam.
Oh yeah. I think I just watched one where they arrested someone's DoorDasher, and then he took the food to the house.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Shit
Yeah,
like that. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and that stuff was hearsay, rumor, story before body cams, and now it's a reality that, hey, these, the stigma of police officers and not being human is kind of being brushed aside, and we're seeing a human side to these officers that was never really known before.
Yeah. No, totally. Totally. And that's a good thing. But so let's circle back a little bit
Yep,
here.
go ahead.
We got off topic, but
No,
it
sorry.
was a good off topic. No, I enjoyed. That's a good conversation that I always like to have. Because everyone's got different opinions, and different parts of the country have different things going on. So it's always good to get insight from everyone. I want to jump into the hard shit real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we went over like the beautiful part, right,
Yep.
of the family, the job.
Yep.
I mean, let's talk about the tough shit. What was tough, man? Because I know you didn't have it easy.
Um, One of the big things for me that was really tough when I got back was being alone. I, right out of treatment, wasn't 100% sure I trusted myself. Wasn't 100% sure I was in a state of mind to make the right decisions when I was alone, as far as like, hey, I'm bored, I don't have anything to do. Prior to Chateau, I'm bored, I don't have anything to do. Well, shit, let's go to the bar.
Yeah.
That was scary for me. And I tried to fill myself. I tried to fill every minute, every day with something to do to avoid that feeling. And it reared its ugly head and was like, you got to sit in the uncomfortableness. You got to experience it and formulate some kind of plan to combat it. And for me, it was, all right, well, what is the most healthy thing to do right now. I know that, you want some human interaction, and, a bar's a real easy place to find it, or going and hanging out with your buddies that are all at the bonfire, hooping it up is an easy way to find it. But what I had to really look inside myself and go, what's best for John? What is best for your recovery right now? And I was still fragile at that point. I was still learning how to integrate all these new skills I had into my life. And I wanted to succeed. I wanted to show everybody that, hey, this wasn't a vacation for me, leave for 60 days, go hang out in the mountains of Utah, come back, do 3 or 4 months sober, and then I'm back to the old John.
Yeah.
And I'm getting too old. I'm getting too old to live that lifestyle where, it's it would almost be a bigger setback than it was before if I were to make that unhealthy choice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, does that involve, you know, that you have lived a portion of your life now on, quote unquote, the other side, right? Like, what happiness is,
Yeah.
or
Oh
whatever
yeah.
it may be, or you're feeling joy again, or all of that kind of stuff. Like, that that's there. So to go back down that path again is it's easy to do. Don't get me wrong.
It's extremely easy to do. It's
Yeah,
extremely easy to grab that victim
yeah,
mentality again and feel sorry for yourself, and get up in the morning and look at yourself and go, God, you're a piece of shit, while you look at yourself in the mirror. It's very easy to do that, and almost it's sad to say this, it's almost human nature sometimes to do that. And I think what I experienced was I was done living that way. I was done
well, that's the
hurting. I
easier.
was
Yeah, that's the
done
easier,
hurting.
softer
Yeah.
way. That's the easier, softer way.
I don't have 50 years left. I've got to make the most of the time I have, and I want that to be good time. I want it to be full of fun memories and, great experiences with family and friends. And
Yeah, you want to live.
yeah.
That's
And,
the bottom
and
line.
I wasn't living.
Yeah,
I wasn't. Getting off of work at 5 in the afternoon and being in a bar by 5:30 until sometimes 2 in the morning. That's not living.
no.
It's sitting alone in your apartment and stewing about how the world has wronged you and how, nobody cared about you, when in fact it's the complete opposite. The only person that's wronged you is yourself. And there are people out in the world that care about you, but you're so stuck in this cloud and this funk that you can't even see it. And it was once that I broke out of that cloud and that funk and was able to get out of that rabbit hole I was stuck in, that I was able to look around and go, yeah, this is the way I want to live.
Absolutely. No, that's part of it. You gotta have that to be successful, right? Like, you gotta have that little sense of, like,
You
this
got to
is,
have,
yeah,
I think there's a number of key components to being successful after you get out of treatment. You got to have self accountability, is one of the biggest ones. You got to own your shit. Another one is a support system. And like we touched on earlier, I had an amazing support system all the way down to my partner that I ride around 10 hours a day with, the administration at work, my girlfriend, my kids, my relatives. I mean, I don't think I have, since I've been back, some guys will, the guys that really, and I think I figured out quickly, the guys that kind of gave me a hard time about treatment were the guys that maybe they needed a little help too. They were uncomfortable with the fact that I had gotten my shit together and that I had righted my wrongs. And I think the people that weren't supportive were people that maybe had some issues of their own.
Well, I think it could possibly be, like if you did it, then they felt like they could do it, but they weren't strong enough at that moment, right? So there's a little bit of anger that comes. Do you
They
get what
weren't
I'm
ready.
saying
Yeah.
there?
Yeah,
Like,
they weren't ready.
yeah, or it's like, well, fuck, that guy did it,
Hmm.
and I'm sitting over here so wallowing in my sorrows. I'm gonna be a dickhead to him.
Yep.
I'm
That's
gonna,
exactly
yeah,
what it is.
yeah. Which I think that's just human nature once again, right? Like,
Exactly.
which is okay.
Exactly.
It's no issue at all, right? Like that's their own shit that we have to let go.
Hmm.
And you talk shit back a little bit here and there, fuck you. But other than that, like,
And it's just,
yeah,
and I almost got to a point now where prior to me getting some help, somebody giving me shit about anything would have eaten me alive.
yeah.
Oh, I'm a horrible person. Nobody likes me. This and this and that. Now it's just like, whatever.
Oh, dude, like, I mean, me and my friends we're more self-deprecating to ourselves, like in a jokingly way,
Hmm.
than anyone else can be these days,
Well,
anyways.
that's the whole law enforcement industry.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
cops give each other more shit than
Yeah.
anybody. And
Yeah.
if you were to walk into a roll call or anywhere in the nation and watch how cops interact, you'd be like, God, these guys hate each other.
Yeah. But I'm saying
It's the exact opposite. That's how it is twisted as it sounds. That's how we show love to each other.
I don't think it's twisted, man, because I do it with my friends too, right? That are non-law enforcement, like,
Yeah, you do it to me
fucking-
all the time.
yeah, but I love you.
I know you.
That's the thing. Like that's just how it is, man. Is we just give each other shit, and But the fact of the matter is any single moment you would need me or anyone like that in that matter, like it's no questions asked.
And I think kind of where you're going with this is my relationships with my kids, my girlfriend, her kids, her parents, my relatives, they all got stronger because I got stronger. They got stronger because I learned one of the biggest things I learned out of Chateau was how to love myself again. And once you learn how to love yourself again, you are open to other people loving you too. And prior to that, I was so angry and pissed off at the world and stuck in such a depression and rut that I didn't want anybody to get close to me. I didn't want anybody to, show me any kind of compassion because I didn't have enough compassion for myself. And it wasn't until I almost hit rock bottom that I had to find some compassion for myself because it was the first thing I was able to grab onto and hold onto. And for anybody that is close to hitting rock bottom, that is the first thing you have to grab onto to get better, is that compassion for yourself, to be able to forgive yourself, to be able to love yourself again, because you can do all the 12-step stuff you want, you can do all the meetings you want and everything, but if you are not able to love yourself and be able to surrender to some of the teachings that you're being taught, you're just chasing your tail.
And you'll never come out the other end, right?
No.
Yeah.
And there's almost, you watch some of these movies where the main character in the movie has that moment of euphoria,
the
or
light bulb goes off or whatever, maybe.
kind of, but I'm looking for almost a better descriptor, like that over calming presence of peace in their life that comes in. And for me, not only finding my sobriety, but being able to handle and control my mental health, that was that moment for me. That was, hey, all the noise and confusion and my mind racing at night prior to Chateau, all that shut off.
Yeah, but it took a lot of work.
It was a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will not tell anybody in clients that I work with now when I get referred somebody and, hey, can you talk to this person about maybe getting some help or something like that? The first thing I ask them is, are you ready for help? Because if they're not ready for help, you're wasting your time, my time, and everybody else's. You're going to just spin, like I said before, and chase your own tail. And once they tell me, yeah, I am ready for help, and I'm going to be honest with you, this is not going to be easy. There are pieces of yourself you're going to have to look at, and pieces of yourself that you're going to have to dissect that aren't pretty. But you need to be okay with that. You need to be okay, and I know I've said this several times, with not being okay.
Yeah. Yeah, like mental health is the unfortunate one. I feel like I've said this like a broken record the last couple of days with these departments when they've asked for like certain statistics or success rates or all of these type of things. I have to say, like, look, mental health is one where like we can give you all the tools and all the capabilities to be successful, but if that person is not invested appropriately and willing to put in the effort to continue working on themselves, like, you won't have success.
No.
Right? Like,
No.
you can inspire and do all of those type of things as a facility, as yourself, right? Like someone, as the alumni director talking to somebody, like, you can do all of those things, but, you know.
In success in this field is such a skewed topic.
Yeah.
So you can be successful. You and I could sit down with a potential client, a potential, mental health organization that wants to get involved, and we can rattle off numbers.
Oh, yeah.
But you want to measure true success. You look at how an individual does after they get out, how their life is 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years after they get out. And success to me is if I can get one person help, if I can get that one person to be able to stick their head back up out of that rabbit hole and go, oh, still is a pretty beautiful world up here, and I can give them a hand in pulling themselves out of the rabbit hole, everything's been successful. It's like that. It's kind of like that old adage, and our good friend Brad Shepard, this is one of his stories and lines, is you got a cop or a firefighter in the hole. They're in a hole, they can't get out. And construction worker walks by and he says, hey buddy, can you get me out of the hole? And he goes, oh man, can't help you, but I can throw you this towel because it's pretty hot out. Construction worker leaves. And you got a priest walks by the hole, and the cop looks up the priest and says, hey, Father, can you help me get out of the hole? And Father looks down and he goes, oh, I'm sorry, my son. I can't help you, but I will say a prayer for you. Father says a prayer with the cop and leaves. Cop's still in the hole. Finally, another cop walks by the hole and he goes, hey, brother, can you help me get out of this hole? What does the cop do? He jumps in the hole with them. And it kind of sounds like a joke, but the tagline is, cop jumps in the hole with him. And then the cop that was originally in the hole looks at him and goes, what are you doing, idiot? Now we're both in the hole. The cop that jumped in the hole looks at him and goes, yeah, but I've been here before, brother. I know the way out. And
Oh.
if I can do that for one of my brothers and sisters, my whole career that's what my career is about.
Absolutely. And, I think that that's the perfect way to end
Yeah, definitely.
this podcast, because I think that that's something that a lot of people will resonate with. Just that little,
Yep.
portion there, because it's true.
I
Yeah.
got to give credit to Brad Shepard. That's Brad Shepard's.
Don't give him
analogy.
credit. Don't give him take full credit for that. All the way. If anyone ever asks me, I'm saying it's from you. So, hey John, no, thank you. I know it's always late that we're doing this. It's like,
That's what we do.
8:50 on a Tuesday night. And
Yeah, but what are we gonna do?
Yeah, you're right. But no,
We'll
I
stand
appreciate it.
outside and
Yeah, and
have the snot bubbles coming out of our nose trees.
Yeah. No, thank you. But in saying that, like, I love you, dude.
I love
just-
you, man.
yeah.
And you were one of the true blessings in my life, and my family at Chateau, the staff, the clients that I work with, and the people that I was in there that I made lifelong friendships with. I mean, they are my motivation. You are my motivation. My kids are my motivation to continue living a healthy life.
So we're gonna end this with a little.
I'm not hugging you.
No.
All right.
We're not gonna get gay. Don't. We're gonna call out a buddy of yours, so that he listens to this whole thing and knows that Roy's next.
Yeah, Roy Wall. Unbelievable story. So, just to kind of prelude you guys, you want to talk about perseverance, a absolutely tough son of a bitch.
Yeah. I don't know how we're gonna do it yet. I haven't figured
We're
it
gonna
out.
figure it out, but that is my
Yeah.
best friend, Roy Wall.
Yes.
He will tell his story. I don't want to take any of his thunder, but I look at that man and I see what he has gone through, and I look at my problems and go, wow, I really need to toughen up, and because that man is a true inspiration of recovery, of perseverance, and paying it forward.
Absolutely. And, I didn't know if you even knew this, but this is our last official episode of season 1. In case you didn't know, this is episode number 15.
Where are we sitting at for subscribers?
Oh, man. So it jumps up and down. There's been like a total of over 12,000 listens.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool, I
Very
think,
cool.
for a bunch of bums that have just kind
Very
of
cool.
like, I don't know if this will work. I don't know if people will listen.
Well, I got a question. Are we ever going to go the Joe Rogan route and start video recording our podcast?
I've thought about doing that a bunch, but I don't want
Yeah.
people to see how ugly I am. I'll let them, like Kyle.
You are a kind of a Joe Roganist kind of guy.
Dude, get out of here! Don't.
No.
I can only wish.
You know.
But no, it's as Kyle
You
said.
know, with this podcast, I try and promote this podcast a lot. So if you do listen to this podcast, I do ask you to share it with friends. Maybe share it with somebody that's struggling. You never know what kind of thing is going to spark somebody else to get some help, and it might just be this podcast. Share it with people. Get us to be able to reach out to somebody else, get somebody else the help they need.
Yeah, we're always looking for sponsors. We're always looking to promote other people, whatever it may be. I think this got taken on with no idea what it was going to turn into, because it is like such a weird subject to. I mean, like the Joe Rogans and like all of those, like they can go on any and every topic. Like this is for cops and firefighters and EMTs and corrections, dispatch. I mean, this is for you guys, and those are our listeners, I think, right? Like,
Or family of.
Yeah, family of as well.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and you know what? I think that's some of the guests that I think we need to bring on next.
I think it'd be very cool to have, some family members of cops
Yeah.
or firefighters come on, and especially some of our cops or firefighters that have seen some adversity in their mental health, and maybe do an episode of how did this affect
Family.
the people within your immediate inner circle.
Yeah, because this is the last official. I mean, I didn't even know when we started if we were ever going to make it to 5 episodes. But I know that we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. Probably this next season, maybe do some more remote stuff so that we can
Awesome.
get some different guests
Yep.
from across the country.
That'd be great.
Because that's our immediate barrier right now. Is like these trips and these things that I go on. I try and snag someone always. Like for
Yep.
you, we're in Minnesota. That's the only reason we're doing this. We had Trevor in town,
Yep.
last week or so. That's how we
And
got
if you
that
guys
going.
have not listened to that podcast, it was our last podcast, The Angry Viking. Unbelievably great guy. His name does not really describe his appearance, but it does not describe his heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So give it a listen, subscribe. If you love us, give us 5 stars on Spotify or Apple or whatever.
You got anything special to say to listeners?
No, it's extremely grateful that they listen
Okay.
because I can barely stand my own voice.
Well,
You know.
then I'll take the lead here, and I
Yeah.
want to wish all our listeners a happy holidays.
Absolutely.
Well,
So you
I
got the-
said it the politically correct way,
Yeah. Well,
but
and
I'll say it now the right way. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I hope this past year for you was one filled with a lot of happiness and joy, and to 2023 coming up. I hope that's a great year for all of you listeners, and for you, Austin, and
yeah. See, that's the Midwest in you. The politeness just came
yeah,
out. The
yeah, the
Yeah,
Midwest.
yeah.
But
You
yeah,
betcha.
I would be remorsed if I would not send a shout out to the Lucky Fuckers Club. They're very dear to my heart, and they
Mm-hmm.
listen to this as much as they can. So
Yeah.
you guys are awesome.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and we'll see you. We're gonna take a few weeks off to re-platform for season 2 and figure out moving forward. So
Yeah,
we'll
well,
see you guys at the beginning of 2023.
Yeah, let's go bite the head off a gingerbread man.
Thank you for listening to this segment of No One Fights Alone. No One Fights Alone is sponsored by
Chateau Recovery is a 16-bed treatment facility nestled in the foothills of the Wasatch Mountains in Midway, Utah. Chateau's First Responder Resiliency Program is designed to treat the unique challenges and issues that first responders encounter in the course of their careers. Chateau's comprehensive and highly individualized approach to treatment addresses more than just the presenting issues. It addresses the why. Each of their seasoned, trauma-trained, and culturally competent therapists utilize evidence-based, specialized therapies to treat trauma at its core and enable clients to begin the healing process while developing a resilient and healthy relationship with stress. Chateau Recovery is trusted by departments and agencies from around the country to treat responders and veterans. In fact, it is one of only a handful of facilities nationwide that is vetted and approved to treat members of the Fraternal Order of Police. For more information or to speak to a representative, go to chateaurecovery.com or call 888-507-5031.
No One Fights Alone is also sponsored by First Responder Trauma Counselors. First Responder Trauma Counselors are subject matter experts in proactive behavioral health care for frontline workers through their National Peer Support Academy. This 40-hour all badges, all uniforms, and all scrubs educational experience helps to create caring, honest, and empathetic peer support relationships with your fellow frontline workers. The FRTC National Peer Support Academy is taught by actual first responders who have gone back to school to become culturally competent, licensed behavioral health clinicians that teach from lived experiences, not just theories from books. This fast-paced, immersive educational academy will not just change your life, it will help you save the lives of others. For additional details, visit 991overwatch.org or call 970-222-419-3. This could be the most life-changing academy you'll ever attend.